the fourth Sunday of Lent, also called Laetare Sunday, we had proclaimed to us a parable from the Gospel that is probably the most familiar parable that Catholics remember, the parable of the prodigal son. I'm sure over the years you and I have heard many homilies about the younger son, how ungrateful he was, how self-centered and selfish he was, how he broke his father's heart by walking away. And perhaps at times we've heard homilies about the elder son, maybe often thought by many people the good son, because he stayed home. He followed all the rules. Today, as we gather to celebrate the liturgy, I would like us to focus not on the younger son or the older son, but rather on the father. Because I think this is why Jesus spoke this parable in the first place. He wanted to focus on the love, the forgiveness, and the welcoming of the father. This father tried his very best to establish a home environment for both of his sons, that they would feel welcomed, that they would be able to grow and develop into the people God wanted them to be. And he expressed this love for them by giving them their freedom to make decisions in life. Decisions that he would support, and perhaps decisions that would break his heart. But because of love for them, he gave them that ability, that freedom. And we see the one son, the younger son, he wanted to party now, not wait till his father was gone. So he said, I want my inheritance now. I can't wait until you die. I want it now. And out of love, the father gave it to him. Divided everything in half. This went to the younger son, that went to the older son. And the younger son goes off, and we know he lives a wild and crazy life, loses all his money. The other son, he works day in and day out. He's faithful. He keeps all the rules. But both of them become distant from their father. The younger son in miles, the elder son in the hardening of his heart. Remember what he says later in the story. For years I slaved for you. The father loved them both. The one who went off and lived a reckless life. The one who was faithful, but perhaps was just going through the motions. He loved them both. He longed that both of them would come to experience a home filled with love and forgiveness and welcome. And perhaps that was his prayer every night, that both of his sons would recognize that there always was a place they could come to for that love, that forgiveness, that welcome. As we go on in the story, we would come to realize that the younger son finally comes to his senses, realizes that life is much better at home, and he starts on his way back with a nice act of contrition that he made up all by himself. Meanwhile, the father's been looking and searching, praying and hoping that one day that son would return. And as he gazes on the horizon, he sees him afar off. And how does he respond? He doesn't fold his arms, put a frown on his face, and tap his foot, waiting for his son to grovel into his presence. No, the parable says he ran to the son who disgraced him, who humiliated him. He runs to him in welcome, in love, and in forgiveness. The son tries to get out his act of contrition, but the father, he doesn't want to hear the whole thing. He has his son back. He dresses him back as a son. He places a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and he has a celebration because his son who was lost is now found. His son who was dead is now come back to life, to that place of love, forgiveness, and welcome. As the story goes on, we hear about the older son, the one who's been working all day long, coming back home, and he hears music and dancing, wonders what's going on. One of the servants says, "Your younger brother is back." And the elder son gets angry and refuses to go in. And what does the father do? Once again, he goes out to meet him. "Please, come in. Please experience love and forgiveness and welcome." But the son says, "I don't know if I can do that. All these years I worked for you. I slaved for you. I didn't break any of the rules. And yet you never seemed to care." And the father said, "Everything I have has always been yours. It was always yours. Please, come in. Come in love and forgiveness and welcome." We don't know what the older son does. Does he remain hardened of heart, hanging on to his resentment and his bitterness? Luke never gives us an answer. The father loved both sons, no matter what they did and how they did it. And he always wanted for them to know that there was always a place they could go to come to, a place of love, forgiveness, and welcome. As disciples of his son Jesus, God the Father still wants us to have a place that you and I can always come to for love, for forgiveness, and for welcome. In today's world, we call that place a parish. That's the purpose of a parish, is to be the outward sign and manifestation that we have a God who loves us no matter what. Whether we stray from him or remain faithful or just go through the motions, our God loves us no matter what. And we find that expression of love when we gather together in a parish community, which is the home of the church. And as we gather in the home of the church, within our parish, we come to experience not only the love of God, but the forgiveness of God, always and forever. There is nothing that we can do that would ever prevent God from forgiving us over and over and over again. And he always wants us to feel like we're welcome to come to him anytime, anywhere, no matter how we feel inside, be it good or bad. The parish is that place that you and I can always come to experience the love of God, the forgiveness of God, the welcoming of God. And here in this place, since 1995, this sacred ground that we're on right now, this has been the home of the church, which we call St. Vincent de Paul Parish. And every year, since that founding of the little church behind us, God has said, "Come home. Come and be loved. Come and be forgiven. Come and be welcomed." And you and I, whether we've been here since that little church was built or we're just showing up today, we're here. And hopefully you and I will experience that love, that forgiveness, and that welcoming of God. Now, like any home, when the family gets bigger, things have to change. A large family can't live in a really small home. And perhaps many of us have experienced, as our families grew, we either moved to a bigger house or expanded the house we started in. Guess what? The same thing happens in the home of the church called the parish. For many years, the first church was our home. But as we grew, we realized we needed more space. And this was created through the generosity and the prayers of lots and lots of people, many who are sitting here this afternoon. Our family continues to grow because our God continues to call people to experience his love, his forgiveness, and his welcome, and he invites them to come here, the home of the church called St. Vincent de Paul. So this time, I want you to turn your attentions to the screens as we see what's happening as we continue to expand our parish to be God's presence in this area.